Sean French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time. I confirmed it. A whole society determined.
What if you grew up your whole life as an outstanding high school athlete, all-state selection? Then as you grow up, you realize your focus is people and wanting to make the world a better place. So you start working with kids that have disadvantages such as autism, etc., only to find yourself in the fitness industry, being a bodybuilding pro, a multiple business owner, and really helping men achieve their best physical and mental results. What if you could be that guy? Well, my guest right here, David Kampfe, is that guy. You're gonna enjoy this one. Come see.
This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me.
What's up, everybody? We're here in Jacksonville Beach, live at Lynch's Irish Pub. I have with me today David Kampfe, a fitness and health enthusiast that owns over 6 companies in the health and wellness space. Super excited to have this conversation with you today, man. Welcome to the show.
Man, I'm really blessed. Thankful to be here. Thank you, man.
Man, it means a lot to me to meet you and to be sitting across from you and just be able to have this amazing conversation in front of your hometown and the community that you give so much back to. So tell everybody who may not know your story. Who is David Kampfe?
Well, I'm born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I moved to Jacksonville when I was 15. Had the blessing of playing some college football in West Virginia at a Division II school. When I got done playing football, I realized that I never was going to leave fitness. Like I just needed to take my mindset and my body, and I needed to find a way to put it into fitness. And I was training people and working with kids with autism for a couple of years. I was working with kids with autism from 9 to 5 in the afternoon, and I was training people in the morning from 5 a.m. till 8 a.m. and then after work as well at the beach and the park. I did this for 4 years, saved up enough money to be able to rent my first location. And then that's when I realized I really needed to brand myself and name my company. So I didn't know what to name it. I wrote a bunch of names down, and then I came upon a thought. I was like, man, I'm too dynamic for all of these names. So I thought I would name my business Dynamic Fitness. So that was 2011. And since then, we've expanded online. I have clients in 17 countries, all 50 states that are doing my online programs. And then locally, I'm a partner owner of the Gym Jacks. We have over 2,800 members. It's 38,000 square feet. We're the home of the Jaguars. And I'm blessed and fortunate to also own a massage therapy company called Dynamic Massage and a physical therapy company called Dynamic Physical Therapy. So lately, I launched my newest company, which is called Dynamic 3 Health. Hopefully this is the retirement plan. We are a nationwide telemedicine company open in all 50 states. We have 14 nurse practitioners and 4 medical directors that oversee our business. I have 2 outstanding business partners in Dynamic 3 Health, and then I also have amazing business partners in the gym. So I can't say that I do everything I have alone, but I can say that I've been very blessed, very fortunate to have a community around me that has, one, believed in me, lifted me up, and then also put in the work to prove the concepts that I put out there. So
Dude, I love it, man. There's so many parallels here, and I just want to talk to the audience real quick. Man, you grew up on the West Coast. I grew up on the West Coast. I'm from the San Francisco Bay, right? You worked with kids with autism. I taught kids with autism.
That's amazing.
Crazy, right? And then all
not
of a sudden,
enough men in that industry.
Dude, it's not, and it's needed, right? They need strong men, strong women to help them out. And the craziest thing is, you were struggling building the name for your brand. And a lot of times, what we have to do is we have to look inward and figure out who we are. And that is exactly how we build those personal brands. I had the same experience when I was building the Determined Society. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden I post this embarrassing photo of myself on one of my stories. I'm like, hey, what's the first word that you think of when you see this picture? And my buddies, they had some funny choice words, and they were offensive and made me laugh a little bit. But the majority came back determined. determination, coach. And so from that, I'm like, I just want to wake up in a society that is determined to chase their dreams. And it's crazy how both brands are very parallel. You are dynamic and you are determined and you are chasing down so many things for the betterment of people and their health and wellness. And I'm sorry, we live in a society that's not focused on their health and well-being, man. And so talk to me about that. How do you bring your message across in helping people in such a way that they feel welcome and safe?
To be honest, our society lacks a lot of accountability. Like our standard that we hold ourselves to is very low, and we tell ourselves we do too good of a job too soon. We're too satisfied with complacency and mediocrity, and when you're growing up, everything's built on a reward system. You're a good kid, you get a star. When you grow up, you do well in school, you get good grades. You put time into work, you get paid a paycheck. But when you delay gratification when it comes to your health and your wellness and your body, then you get a return on investment. But if every day you self-gratify where you're at, you're never going to make progress. And it all comes down to your standard. Like, what standard do you hold yourself to? Is your standard like, okay for me to wake up late, okay for me to miss meals, okay for me to not care about my health, okay for me to not get sunlight? Like, if that's your standard, then you're going to reap the benefits or not benefits of your lifestyle. So my approach when I work with people, and I'm really blessed and fortunate that I personally coach and I work with some NFL guys. I have a Super Bowl champion on my roster that I work with, and his name is Josh Wells, and he's somebody who's launching a program right now, a coaching program called Undrafted, and he was an undrafted athlete. And we talk about this every day, is that people's standard that they hold themselves to is not high enough, and they have a $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic. And they wonder why somebody else is getting ahead. Well, somebody else is putting in the work. I love Lynch's. I appreciate you guys for the beach, but I never spent any time here. I didn't spend time here because I was waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning while my friends were partying here. And there was, years of my life where people would invite me out and I would have to tell them no. Thankfully, they just stopped inviting me out because I don't have to tell people no. And that's because they know my standard. I can still see them and they can still be my friend, but I don't participate in things that are not conducive to my overall goal and the alignment of where I'm trying to take myself.
Dude, I love it, man. And I experienced the same thing when I was going through high school and junior college baseball before I got my scholarship to play at Louisiana State University. I was constantly turning down trips to Lake Tahoe to go party, trips to Vegas, things like that, because my standard and my dreams were so big. I'm wondering, because I know my answer, but I want to know your answer. It's when we have a dream, right? And you know what it's like to have that discipline and that raw determination to continue to wake up every single day and do the things that you want to do or don't want to do, for that matter, in order to get that end goal. A lot of individuals, I feel like it's a skill that is built. How would you take somebody that doesn't have that background and that belief system, their core belief system enough to fight through those moments where they want to stay in their bed? How do you help build that resiliency and that determination in them to go chase down their goals?
So, I use the analogy, I talked to your buddy Matt about it just a couple minutes ago. You're always going to have points of resistance along whatever your goal is. You're never going to be, if something's really easy, it's not probably very hard to attain. If something is worth having, it's going to have discipline, sacrifice, organization, and structure to accomplish it. And along those ways, that's going to have resistance. So if you see resistance and you run from it, you're never going to accomplish your goal. But if you see resistance and you analyze where that resistance is coming from, and then have behaviors that attack that resistance, then that resistance becomes something that is an obstacle that becomes an opportunity. And there's growth. That's where you have growth. Because if I tell someone that they need to build more muscle, well, building more muscle means you have to eat more protein. Eating more protein means you have to go to the grocery store and buy more, means you have to prep more, means you have to actually set your timer and eat it. So each behavior has multiple behaviors that have to compound. Yeah. And if you say you want a result, or if you say you want something, it has to be loud enough, and it has to be louder than the voice that says you want to stay in bed. And I used to have a lot more empathy when I started out coaching towards people that were lazy. I used to have a lot more empathy, but I realized that I woke up this morning at 4:30 and I got my shit together and did what I was supposed to do for me and for my family and for those that are around me to set my example, that if it takes me waking somebody up, it's not sustainable. They need to wake themselves up and find it in their own heart and ask themselves, what is my purpose? What is my why? Who am I doing this for? Because if it's for external circumstances or external validation, you're never gonna get it. The motives of your heart will ultimately determine and dictate the outcomes that you have, because when you have resistance and you feel that resistance, if it's an external validation that you're looking for, man, you'll quit. But if that's in your heart, if that thing makes you tick when you wake up, if it is that driving force, that resistance, you're gonna see it as an opportunity. It's gonna change your perspective. And if your standard is where it's supposed to be, once your perspective changes, you can't not make the shift that you need to make to be successful. Otherwise, you're lazy.
Dude, I love it. You know, we're talking a couple things I want to cover, like based on that. One is resistance.
It's
resistance.
Good.
It is there for a reason. You cannot build muscle without resilience. And I always ask myself, why in the world, when you're trying to build something as an entrepreneur, or if you're a 9-to-5 salesperson or building a career so you can provide for your family, why do people think it's going to be easy? There's going to be that point where the resistance is so big, it's heavy, it hurts, you want to cry, you just want to rage. You might. I mean, I have.
Yeah, I have too.
I drove around in my car when I first started at Paychecks, selling payroll years ago. I drove around Marco Island crying in tears because I was too scared to get out of my vehicle because the pressure and the resistance was so big. But once I got through that, I was a top salesperson in that company.
For sure.
The other thing I want to address here is you're talking about, what you're really talking about is leadership and setting an example, right? By getting up at 4:30, setting the example for your family. But I want to point out the community. They're all here because of your leadership. So you can say and look like you do, but the results to me is the amount of support that comes. So, this community loves you. You're doing a heck of a job showing that leadership and living that story. That's why they're here, man. They care about. So to me, that's what the ultimate passion is to make that impact and see people come along because they're watching you do it yourself.
Success leaves clues. And if you think that you're gonna recreate the wheel of success, you're ignorant, you're cocky, and you need to be humbled. And if you avoid resistance, it will find you at one point or another. I can attest to that in my bodybuilding. There were, I mean, I hate to even verbalize this, but there were a couple years in my bodybuilding career that I avoided some movements because they were uncomfortable and they were hard. Well, guess what? Those movements now more than ever are the ones that I'm doing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I've made them the staple of my program, and my physique shows it. So it was my pride and it was my ignorance to think that I was better than the pain and suffering that I had to endure to get those movements as a fundamental. And I had to humble myself to the reality of, it's hard, it's challenging, you suck at it, but you avoiding it, that's not gonna fix anything.
It's funny, you're talking about this and I'm thinking of Romanian deadlifts. No, sorry. What are those ones that you lunge out out there and you put your
Bulgarian split squats.
Yeah, those things.
I like those.
I don't like those.
I hate anything bent over. So any bent over deadlifts, bent over rows, RDLs, all that stuff. And I avoided a lot of posterior hip hinging movements for a long time, and I was very frontal dominant.
Okay.
And it led to injuries. It led to a lot of things that you can't avoid. If you're avoiding resistance, then you're going to stay where you're at.
It's so funny because it's not just about those movements. How has your life changed? How has your business changed since you decided to do the hard stuff that you didn't want to do and implement into your training in your body? How did that translate to everything else you're doing in your businesses?
The level of self-accountability rises across the board, and your clarity and your understanding will also match it. And it's funny you say that. I have learned that all of us are only as successful as your routine is, because motivation's gonna fail you, inspiration's gonna fail you, and when push comes to shove, your routine and your structure has to be where you find your success. Because if you're in a season where you're lacking motivation or you're lacking inspiration and you're not dedicated to your craft, when you hit a season where you're highly inspired, you're not going to be in a position to receive it because you didn't do what you were supposed to do when you were tired or when you were lazy.
It's funny because a lot of people think motivation comes, I need to be motivated, and they go to the YouTube and they go to all the influencers, maybe listen to the Determined Society. I'm going to get that motivation to push forward. Man, that motivation comes after you already started doing the work. You start to see some momentum, some results. That's when the motivation kicks in. But the real magic is in the discipline and the determination.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because if you're thinking that at any point you're in a good place or you're like cruising, that you should be alarmed at that spot, because that level of comfort, unless you're retired and you're trying to downsize or simplify, as an entrepreneur, like, you have to be putting pressure on everything you're doing at all times. And the moment you let up that pressure and you get comfortable, man, I see my business's numbers go down. I see it for my employees too. And it's unfortunate. I can't do everything for everybody, but I can try to lead by example and always be the hardest worker. And I also I'm blessed and thankful that, the businesses that I have are in people that I trust and I have invested in to do a good job. So they're successful businesses because of like-minded individuals. And my partners at the gym, Sean and Jackie Grisbin, they believed in me and they invested in me and they saw potential in me, not because I talked a good game, because they knew I showed up. My business partners in my nationwide telemedicine clinic, I didn't have to negotiate for my position in this business. They needed me because they know how well I show up. And if you're somebody who shows up, puts in the hard work, puts in the grind, and aligns themselves daily with where they're supposed to be and their goal, someone around you, if you're around the right people, is going to notice that and help bring you along and lift you up, because you can't do it alone. I'm always looking for people that I can build a leader out of, and someone that is going to take the next step and be a good coach and be able to pour into others and be able to lead by example. And it's hard because a lot of times I get frustrated because I see more potential in people than they see in themselves. Yeah. And I have to pull myself back and be like, you know what? They're fine with 70%. I wouldn't be fine with 70%, but they're fine with 70%. They're handling 2 things. I'm handling 11. David, don't hold them to your standard.
Because they aren't you.
They aren't you.
Man, you know what, guys? You heard it from this Jacksonville legend, David Kampfe. Success leaves clues, all right? And the clues are raw determination, and you're only going to be successful as your routine suggests. David, thank you so much for coming on to the show, bud.
Very blessed. You, thank you, Sean. Thank you.
Man.
Sharp French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time, I confirmed it. A whole society determined to show.